Well, it's Friday. We were discussing the drama this morning, which is that Kraken has discovered the neighbors have a... no, it's doing that thing. I'm wrong again. Hang on a sec. I don't know why I can't ever get that right, but I have a thing when it comes to when you have two options, option A and option B, I typically will get them reversed, and then I'll reverse it again because I think it's wrong, and then I'll find out that the first way I had it was actually correct. Though there was a few times I remember where I did that like 3 or 4 times, where it's just no position of the two positions, 0 or 1 did anything. Anyway, it's Friday. And I was telling a story, which is that Kraken has discovered that once again, the neighbor's shed has a whole bunch of mice underneath it, and she's pretty excited about that. Rocket figured out that when his best friend Kraken gets a mouse, she sometimes doesn't know where it goes because it gets away from her, and then he has a snack. We think he ate it whole, and she was, poor Kraken, well, now she's sleeping next to Sabrina, but any case, you know, nothing to get upset about. Everybody in that scenario is doing all the things they're going to do. Our oldest daughter, as Sabrina told me when told about this, said, well, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. You've got a killer killing, you got a hunter hunting, and you have a scavenger scavenging, and you have a mouse saying, why me? Okay. Oh, wrist check. So, a wrist check. This is the one that finally got the Rolex 000 off my wrist. There were a couple orange dialed models of the 7548 series. This is the 7548 7000C. I found this watch for sale in Japan, and I bought it specifically because one of my people asked me to find one, and I got one for him. And when it showed up, I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is just even more beautiful than I imagined." But I put it out of my mind, and I sent it off to the new owner. And then he decided he didn't actually wear it very often. He says it's a beautiful watch, but he just found that he did not wear it, and so he sent it to me, and I said, "I am super down, super down." So this one is back here. It's completely original. Original orange, original lume, original gold, flat gold hands, original gold insert with that beautiful angled in like this. It's fully serviced. It's original case polish, everything. Z199 bracelet. What a watch, huh? There's two of these. There's a 700. There are 2 orange ones. One of the orange ones has silver hands and a silver insert. I'm not sure what language day wheel, but this is the one that has the gold hands and the gold insert. I can never quite keep them straight, but, you know, it's a beauty. True tool watch, the real deal. It was designed to be used. How neat. Okay, that's what I'm wearing. You know, so I go back and forth. I've been wearing, you know, part of the thing where I've been wearing less Seiko is not because I don't love Seiko, but it's because I'm so close to the end of all my jobs, and so I strongly associate Seiko with work, my work. And so it makes me, I don't know, I guess when I look at the wrist, my wrist, I don't want to be like, oh my God, work. But, you know, this is just, I mean, how do you beat it? How do you beat it? What a beautiful watch. I can never quite keep there's like, it doesn't matter. Okay. Let's see. Cheshire 69. Hello, Spencer. Thanks for continuing the mail call. You're welcome. Thank you for thanking me. Can you please explain the difference between the 6309, 6306 and the 6309? Sure, there isn't a whole lot of difference. I always wonder, honey, if this is one of those questions where I should make a video or if I should just tell people.
Well, okay, if it was me who knows nothing, what do you think would benefit me?
Seeing it. All right, fine. It's not much difference. Anyway, so not much difference. really not much more. And you can get, I mean, except for the hacking, the 6319s are the same as the 6309s. So, John Cunningham, Spencer, exclamation point. How did you get into the watch repair business? Secondly, the length of time it took to reach your full potential.
Nobody's ever at their full potential.
I was about to say, am I at my full potential?
Nobody ever is for anything.
Have I ever reached my entire full potential? What, are you saying that, like...
No, I'm saying, no, if anybody's like, I'm awesome, then you know what, they're not, and they're a dick. There's always more to learn.
Well, have you heard what Cam Newton said this morning?
Well, he's a dick, but no.
No, he got cut from the Patriots,
Right.
and he's like, you know, I understand it. I'm a distraction because, you know, I'm Cam Newton, and when you have a Cam Newton in your locker room, you know, I just have a presence.
Dude, they had Tom frickin' Brady. What the hell?
Yeah, really. I don't know. Cam, I'm the greatest noodle arm Newton. How did I get in the watch repair business? Completely by accident. It was, I've always loved machines and wristwatches. I was kind of a dandy when I was a teenager, and so I liked things that were fancy. I just always thought watches were just really cool technology. I just thought they were neat. I've always loved them. And I've also had consistent problems through my early life in getting other people to do work on watches that I would be happy about. Not that I was any kind of great, you know, master or anything else like that. It's just that I don't like waiting on other people to do things for me. I'd rather just do it myself. And so it was I don't know. It became a hobby. I now know that I have ADHD, and so what that means is part of my brain is always running, and so I always have to have something to fiddle with. When I was a kid, I used to build models, and I read a lot too. But then when I started being able to fiddle around with watches, I got really kind of obsessed with watches again. This was in later adulthood versus being a teenager or in my 20s or whatever. And I really wanted to, I bought one watch. I invested in a 6139, a True Pogue. And I sent it off to someone who at that point was considered to be sort of the master. And it didn't really go very well at all. I'm still not entirely convinced that he actually serviced it, because a number of the problems that the watch had were unchanged when it got back to me. So I said, you know, screw that. And I started ripping watches apart. I'm like, because my dad was always like, he was always a, you know, hell for leather kind of guy. I mean, his thing is, if you wait until you're ready, you'll never get anything done, which is kind of a half-baked strategy. But in some cases, if you're a self-learner like I am, because of how my brain works and learns, it kind of was the only way for me to do it. I had to do it myself. If sitting in classrooms is just torture for me. Even if I like the subject, sometimes it's hard. But I just kept doing it as a hobby, and I started getting better, and dudes in the watch forum community started sending them to me, and it was great because I was getting free practice. These guys were getting free watch work, you know, paying nothing for work that was probably worth nothing, but you know, they were very, very pleasant, very supportive. Some guys were, and so I got a lot of watches in to practice on, and I kind of got better and better at it. I really wanted to know how to make a 6139 go, though, because of this earlier issue with this other person. So one guy had a bunch of 6139 junk movements, and in those days they weren't worth a lot. And he mailed me a box, a fellow in California, and I just sat there and I rebuilt 6139s over and over and over again for weeks. I did it over and over and over again until I started being able to get consistent results. But even with that, it still took years of work. And I have to say that I learn, you know, I learn new things all the time. The old school watchsmith who was here in town, he's long gone now. But he was Rolex and Omega trained. He was a master watchsmith. He was a CM21. And but he told me he was one of these old guys, World War II generation. He had his office in his house, but he actually worked with customers. You could go in. He had like a little customer entrance. But even working in his own house, in his own shop, he always wore a tie. And so, but anyway, this dude, this professional looking guy who'd been doing this forever, he looked at me at one point and he said, the great thing about this job is we're always learning new things. I'm like, wow, this dude's like in his 80s and he's still learning new stuff. Every day, I learn new stuff all the time. So there is no full potential. I have no idea what my full potential could be. And maybe you hit your full potential and you bounce back. I don't know. Jim Canataro. You going through your yearbook was priceless. Her, and her, and her, and her. Well, what are you going to do? But there were... I just thought it was funny. I hope you never take for granted that you get to do this for a living. Most people have expletive jobs they hate. Your situation is truly rare. Oh, don't you think I know it? Man, I was in management and retail and corporate stuff and front-facing customer service for decades. Literally decades. And it's... if there's somebody who's burned out on customer face-to-face interaction, it's me. No, I can't say that I take it for granted. I mean, it's my everyday existence. I haven't taken a new job since January 2018. All the work that I've had in here is work that came in that long ago. And so I've had, job security, thankfully, and I'm extraordinarily grateful for it. It's just, I want to be a little more free. I'm still going to do customer work. I don't know that I'm going to do a ton of it. But there's no way I can do all of it. We get job inquiries every single day. And we have every single day for 3.5 years, 4 years. Actually, we've been getting job inquiries since the 8 years now. I think even no, much longer than that, probably over a decade. But it just and I'm grateful for that. But I can't help everybody. I mean, if I were really, really on the ball, I'd probably construct or rent a retail space or something and get a couple actual watchsmiths in here, and we could take any darn job that came in. But I don't want to manage people anymore. I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's production. I work enough as it is. I'm kind of always working, and I don't want to have to ride herd on other people, and I would have to, and I don't want to, so I'm not going to, because I don't think I'm very good at it. I don't think I'm a sympathetic employer. As for my yearbook, if you have a shotgun approach to romance, eventually one of your shots is going to hit. So that was how I did it back then. And that's not true. I just thought everybody was neat. Okay. Hang on a second. This is Watch Me Draw. First, he has a long comment about a 7A quartz chronograph that had a really dirty case, like really nasty, and was cleaning it off. This probably makes people grossed right out, but it doesn't to me at all. I realized I've been watching it for a while now and haven't been triggered at all. 1745. There must be something in that video at 1745. It's just what we have to do, and we all do it. Truth be told, I've seen worse, and because of the magnification, it makes it look worse. Although it looks like we could fill a black garbage bag of DNA at most, a really dirty watch seems to have a few grams of dirt in it. Actually, the dirtiest watches I've dealt with were caked with what seemed like clay, with flattened seals and rusty movements. Movements with battery damage have a distinct smell. You have that sour acid smell when you crack a watch and you're like, oh, damn, we had a leaky battery. A fun watch smell is when you crack like an old like an old 6105 or 6309, an old diver, one that's been for a while, and it hasn't been opened, and you crack it open, and when you smell the inside of the case back, it has that old rubber smell, like when you're changing a bike tire. It has that, you can smell the old rubber, and that's pretty cool. I like cleaning things simply because it's not so much that I like the grossness or the gruck of it, but I like the process of making something clean. And so that's nice. I've seen some nasty watches. I've seen some nasty watches.
With arm hair.
Oh, I think about that dude's watch all the time. It was a gold. I still have that entire watch. The movement was perfect. Perfect. Absolutely not a stain on it. The lume was perfectly white. It was a gold-plated 6106 dress watch with a wide-tapered two-tone stainless and gold-plated bracelet. And whoever had worn it wore it without ever taking it off, as far as I could tell. And he had lots and lots and lots of wrist hair. I know that because every single crevice inside the bracelet and around the case was completely packed with arm hair. This is one of the clamshell type cases. So you have the back, like so. The back is where the movement lives in, and it has the stem and everything. And then you have basically then you have the hollow front case goes snap on the top, and those hollow front cases have these sort of cutouts in the corner where the springs are, and the springs go and they hold into the top. It was literally completely packed with hair and like, it was nasty. It was nasty. It was amazing. But I still have the entire watch, and I will always say that Seiko's seal designs, they did them right. There wasn't anything wrong with that movement. Nothing. Dial was perfect. It's just one of those things. Man, and especially with the MG, I'm dealing with some dirt. Okay. In any case, same person, watch me draw. In any case, thanks for your inspiration. My 50th birthday is today. Happy belated birthday. And I'm going to be starting with this hobby soon with the restoring and building of a blue Resist 6139 6005. Yes, my birth watch is the true Pogue. So happy you didn't. So happy birthday, True Pogue, LOL. So bouncing off of that question about beginning tools from last week, there's one thing you did not mention: oil/lube. So the oils that we use for this thing. Currently, I have no income, and I am a starving artist. I did the same thing with the stocking up on parts movements like 6119 and 6106 movements. I have the most of, apparently, thanks to Sabrina, the 6119s and 6106s are by far the most plentiful movements I have. I used to think it was the 7000s. Nope, 6000s. Sorry, I'm going all over the place. What would be the 3 basic oils just to get when starting out doing this hobby and doing it for my own personal watches? And would 8000 do all right until I could afford the proper 9010? I spoke with several watchmakers, and the majority go all Grey Poupon on that answer. Guys, watch people will argue about lubrication a lot. 9010 is kind of irreplaceable because you use it for diafix and diashock settings. It's pretty light. And I have had old guy watchsmiths saying, "Oh, the only reason that they tell people to use the 9010 instead of something a little heavier is because they want to get higher amplitude out of the gate, but it won't stay in place for as long." So some dudes favor a slightly heavier lubrication. I said dudes again. Some people favor a heavier lubrication because it stays in place longer. Maybe it means you have a longer running watch, but I don't know. 8000 is officially, it's for things like keyless works and stuff like that, but I use 8000 for like the third wheel pivots because it's supposed to be a little heavier. If you look, when you're looking at your pivots and your jewels, if you see a really fine pivot, 9010. If you see one like the upper or lower third wheel, you'll notice that it's bigger. And so I use a slightly heavier lube. If you get to keyless works, you can use 8,000, but it tends to really spread, so you want to use just as little as possible. Or ideally, invest in some S2. Seiko still makes it, as far as I know. But, you can't. I think the biggest thing is, when it comes to lubrication, is to make sure that the lube is new and clean, and that you are using just the minimum that you can, or maybe even the maximum that you can. Too much lubrication is a big problem. So you just want to really, really dial it back, because lube will move everywhere through a watch, and you don't want lube everywhere. So that's kind of how I do it. And so far, it's been okay. Maybe somebody will educate me, and I should be doing something different. Next question, VB. I imagine that the Daini and Sua design teams on the King Seiko 52s and 56s were like the Starks and the Lannisters. I own a few from both, and they're always battling for wrist time. Huh? I suppose one of these days I should read Game of Thrones. Can't imagine that I would, though. It's so violent. Just not a... What's that? Why can't people just be nice to each other? We don't need to do all this stuff. Isn't there enough evil in the world without inventing more of it?
You played Fallout,
yeah,
and
but
you played Witcher, and Geralt's really cutting people's heads off.
I think everybody needs to just be nicer. I think we all just need to be nicer. It's a big, big, cold, indifferent universe out there. Okay, so next one. Watson's World of Wonders. Talking about talking to daughters. I've had that conversation about my daughters many, many, many times. Both girls put me through hell when they were growing up, but now they are mid and late 20s and queens of their own domains. Now I just mess with watches, three-wheeled vans, old Italian scooters, and of course watches. Watches never complain like a daughter. It's true.
Or a wife.
I wouldn't. Since when do you complain?
You were complaining about me complaining the other day.
It was like 15 minutes from the moment I woke up, and it was just this litany of low-grade annoyances in your life, and it just was like... But I know that you talking makes you feel better, so there you go. Old Italian scooters, man. That's my 68 Dodge. Where's my Vespa? Oh. I have lots of pictures of this one, but that's it. My 74 Rally 200. It's hopefully still exists somewhere. It must. I was saying the other day that I'd like to have my 74 Rally back, but if I could choose any vehicle to get back, when I was 20 or 21, I had a 1958 Volkswagen Beetle that was great looking. It had a new interior. It had been freshly painted, had no rust, and I got it for free because it had a blown engine. And I fixed the engine, and I drove that car for a long time. But then I sold that Volkswagen to buy that thing. And I did love that thing. I must have put seriously 50,000 miles on that scooter. I'm absolutely not exaggerating at all. I commuted on that bike in California and San Francisco for 4 or 5 years, and I had to go over the bridges every day, every working day. But that Volkswagen, boy, that was a nice one. That was a nice Volkswagen. If I had that Volkswagen, then the garage would be at its full potential. Is it Angelo or Angelo? I'm going to say Angelo Corridori. Okay, so this is a question about the 6139 and the 6138 chronographs. So, if the chronograph wheel is damaged, does that affect the entire movement and its timekeeping, or just the use of the chronograph and its function? Number 2 is the correct answer. If the clutch fails in a 61 in the chronograph wheel, what happens is the finger will come around to about 58 seconds. It'll hit the finger on the chronograph wheel will hit the intermediate minute counter wheel, which then is going to try to turn the minute counter wheel itself, but if that clutch isn't holding, the handle just stop, and it stops at 58 seconds, and the watch will continue running because because the clutch is just slipping. It doesn't really affect the running. It means that you have effectively a 58-second chronograph, but the timekeeping with the chronograph stopped should be exactly the same. So that's the thing about, 6139, 6138. Worst case scenario, you have a chronograph that works for under a minute, but the thing will still keep time. So that's the way that it is. Jeff Talley. Nice watches, great video. This was on the King Seikos I just did. I would have loved to see the entire servicing of these pieces, but I understand that it takes time to film and edit these videos. So I'm happy to see what we get to see. Thanks, Spencer. Hope you and the family are doing well. Thank you, and same for you. I don't have a way to film everything and still be able to do a good job. Because the thing with using an iPhone for a camera is that it's in the way of everything. Like even when I'm servicing it, I'm kind of having to, it's like right here. I'm like looking down at my watch bench and it's right there. If I had a camera on my glasses, that would be better, but then you'd be seeing me looking around at like the popcorn ceiling and, how much time is left on the, on the washer or something like that. And that would be stupid. I need something that has good vision, good field of vision, that doesn't change, that has a good enough resolution that I can do that. I don't mind showing everything, but my first consideration has to be the watch. So if I can't, if I ever have to balance needs between doing the job that should be done or making videos, then I'm gonna do the watch. It sucks, but mostly I make these videos, I say this a lot, I mostly make these videos for my family and for my kids and also just to talk about watches. But originally in the very beginning, I started doing this because I had no formal training at all. And so I wanted people to be able to have, and also, but with my 6139 that other dude worked on, I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know anything about where the watch was, how long it was going to take, nothing. Zero communication. So I wanted people to have a window into the process of restoring their watches. I wanted people to be able to have a sense that they are involved in it and that they're just not sort of, basically, I wanted transparency. I want people to be able to see it. So rather than documenting every single step, that's what I chose. Now, when I start taking work again, my pricing structures are all going to change. My turnarounds are going to be faster because I'm not going to be taking very many jobs. But perhaps, I can invest in a better system for making these videos and that jobs going forward will get, more coverage. Something to think about. Gary, actually, I just going back to talking about making videos. As far as I know, when I started doing this, making my restoration videos, as far as I know, nobody else did that. I talked to a couple old school watch dudes back then, and they were like, "Why would you want the customers looking over your shoulder?" It's like, well, am I going to do a crappy job if they're looking over my shoulder? I mean, so it used to be the thing that you'd have a separation, but I was
thinking the other day when you used to do it without a camera holder, people would freak out at you for having it be like Blair Witch Project and was all wiggly.
Was it really? I was doing videos with my hands.
You're holding it. You'd be like, okay, I did this.
See, every day in every way, better and better. Gary Brennan. Hi, Spencer. Hello from Ireland. We want to go to Galway. Even though I know the difference between the True Pogues and every other 6139 6000X series with the same dial color, I am one of the guys who calls any 6139 6000 with that dial a Pogue. Okay. Anyway, here's my question. before 2007, when it came to light that William Pogue wore the watch in his Skylab mission, what were the old school Seiko collectors calling them before that? Was there a nickname prior to the Pogue nickname? No. Most of the people in those days, names were rare. They didn't really, names for a watch model didn't happen very often. There were a few, mostly because of early branding or because of other advertisers. Like the
UFO, I remember that.
yep, that's definitely one of them. They go back and forth calling that one the UFO or the Yachtman.
Whatever, in early days, they called it a UFO.
Some people still do. I know what they mean. There was in like 1970 time period, 71, there was a print ad in a magazine that was not from Seiko. It was from a watch retailer or some company that sold the stuff. And it had an ad for an early slim case 6105 8000 diver. And it had one of those 6138-0011s. In that ad, they called it the Yachtman. And that was, in those days, one of the few nicknames that people would accept. Those old guys, man, when somebody would say turtle, they would sneer so hard you could hear it one state over. And so everything in those days, everybody knew what you meant. They never talked about nicknames. They would talk about, they would just say 6138, 0011, or they called it the Yachtman. The Panda was always the Panda. 6309 divers were always 6309 divers. Some people tried to call them turtles, but again, the old dudes sneered at that. People called them cushion case divers, which is certainly more accurate. There was no Willard. The 6105 was a 6105 8000 or a 6105 8110. And interestingly, in those days, because you'd have 6105 or 6105 8110 or 6105 8119, depending on where in the world the watch was sold, and guys would get kind of huffy about one being better than the other. And they're literally made in the same factory, on the same lines, with the same parts and the same stamping machines. There's no difference. But some guys were like, no, man, I need a 6309 7040, not the 7049. They're the same exact watch. I don't think people really think too much about that anymore. Maybe in part because people use the nickname for them versus, wondering about this or that thing. So I think in those days we just when I got my, well, here, I got an example for you. I think I have an example. No, where did it go? Did I put it somewhere strange? I probably did. Where the heck did I put it? Oh, I'll edit this out. Don't worry about it. Aha! Okay. So, we were living at the old house. So this would have been 2009-ish, so 12 years ago. 11, 12 years ago. I bought this on eBay. I paid... See, I just didn't look where I put this down. I put down this paper in thin air.
Be more aware of your surroundings.
I paid the astronomical sum of, if memory serves, like $173 for this watch. This is a 6139 6000 proof with the notch case and the original chiclet bracelet. So when I bought this, for some reason when it came in, I was expecting it to be resist marked. And I was standing in the kitchen talking to Sabrina about something. And it was in the end of the day. I'd come home from work and I'd opened up the package and I was looking at it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's not a resist, it's a proof. I'm like, wow, that's pretty neat. But that's it. So when I made a post about this, I said, oh, well, it's a 6139 6000 proof. If I'd said, that nickname doesn't apply here. But it does now. So, it isn't then, it's now. Call it whatever you like. You know what? And people freak out about it, screw 'em. Gary Brennan's last comment. Thanks for your time and thanks for your videos. You're welcome. I don't know about that. You are basically writing the Seiko Bible for future generations. No, I'm not. I'm putting out a bunch of completely disorganized, unsourced videos of some guy slamming watches together. But, you know, maybe someday in the years to come, if somebody wants to, you know, maybe this stuff will help some people work on watches and save some watches. And I think that would be nice. Yeah, if I was really doing it, honey, I'd get working on that book. My dad used to say that all the time. Dad was always working on the book when in fact he wasn't doing anything. What would he do? No, he'd be sitting at the table reading the paper.
Yeah.
Reading the paper
That he got for free.
That he got for free from the garbage at the student union. And, well, I've got to work on this. I've got to work on these chapters. Like, Dad, you've been working on the chapters for 20 years. You know, he should have retired. Many thanks. Stay safe and live long. You too.
And prosper.
Look, honey, I can still do it. Slim. Hey, man, I haven't heard from you in a while. Question for mail call. Whether it be a cap jewel on the escape pivot on a 17 jewel hand winder or the Diafix jewel on a 4502 or 6349, do you lubricate the bottom of the cap jewel like a balance shock jewel setting, or do you lubricate the base of the jewel where the pivot sits like a standard train jewel? I always wondered. When I do cap jewels on Diashock, which is for the balance, I have the cap jewel upside down on top of clean Rotico with the actual Diafix settings next to them. And I oil the caps at that point. And then I very carefully transfer the cup on top of it. And it's a little wiggly to get that done because you have to make sure it doesn't come back apart or lose it. But I use Rotico because it holds everything. And then I get the completed Diafix setting with the cap jewel, with the lubrication, and I've already confirmed it's the right amount. I can get that, and then I drop it into the balance, and there it is. For Diafix, that's a totally different thing. Diafix, I mean, you can do it that way, where you oil the underside of the cap jewel, but it adds a ton of work, and you have to basically hope that you can drop the already oiled stone perfectly in the middle. Because if it holds up or hangs up at all and goes one side, it'll land wrong, and then the oil will stick it to the top of the movement. The way you deal with those, you assemble them dry. Then when they're together, you flip them upside down and you fill the oil cup on the inside of whatever the heck it is with oil. Well, there's a couple of things. If you have an oiler, an automatic oiler, you just go and that's it. If you don't have an automatic oiler, you fill that cup with oil, and then you take a really, really fine new sewing needle that has a real fine point, or the pivot of the wheel that's going to go there. And you drop that in, and what it does is it makes a connection between the oil sitting in the cup and the cap jewel. And it brings it on there, and then surface tension will go, and it will suck in all of the lubrication, and then you clean out the cup with Rotico, and then you look at the thing on the backside, on the top, and you see how your oil looks. You just got to be careful. They're a pain in the butt to deal with, but that's how you do it. There you go. That's what I do. 7R Slender. 7R Slender? Off topic. Oh, I like off topic questions. Just like your math teacher. I know you like Star Wars. Not sure about Star Trek. Bruh. But did you see the new Playmobil Star Trek toy set? No. What do you think about it? No idea. I'll have to look at it. the rest of this is about watches. Dude, I grew up as a Star Trek fan. I started watching Star Trek when it was first on, first entered syndication in the early 1970s. It was on when I got home from school. It was in the afternoons. And I would watch Star Trek every day. Star Wars was a lot late to the party for me. I mean, I've been watching stuff before that. I mean, I was really into science fiction. But we're not living in a Star Trek time. And J.J. Abrams was skinned Star Trek alive and then set fire to the body. So whatever he did with New Trek, there's just nothing. So it's hard for me to be like, yeah, Trek, because so much of it is being done badly these days. Like the new Picard show, we tried. We're hardcore Trek fans. We met on a Trek message board. Her screen name was Spock is a Rock Star.
Yeah, but then it became Locuteness.
Oh, and then it became Locuteness. Like Locutus aboard, but Locuteness aboard. So, yeah, but it's just like, we went through, we watched the new Picard show, and it's just, first season was okay.
No, it wasn't.
Well, no, but we were like, it's the first season. Like, the first season of Next Generation was unwatchable garbage. Heck, it wasn't even until season 3, really, that it started getting okay. So we figured that the first year was going to suck anyway. But then the second season...
Wait, did we even watch the second season?
No, we never even did.
No,
Wait, is there...
It was awful. You're going to get confused with Discovery, which is also awful.
I am getting it confused with Discovery, which is also awful. Discovery had some real potential. They had some... I mean, they jacked with the timeline, and none of it made sense. And a spore-based interstellar drive is just stupid. And then the whole reason for why it's not known about in the rest of the TOS, it's just like, makes you want to grip my head. I had hopes for the new Pike show. I really did. And maybe it's going to be okay, but I mean, spoiler alert, one of the antagonists in the new Pike...
Well, I guess it was...
Well, no, what I'll do this. The antagonist for the Pike show is a huge one in TOS times. He's already been resurrected once by Mr. J.J. Abrams for reasons. And now they're going to bring him back again to be an antagonist for Pike, which doesn't make any sense because Pike was in command of the Enterprise years before Kirk was, and Kirk was the one. And that character was not revealed until TOS. Kirk found that person. So it makes literally no sense unless you come up with some crazy reason why this extremely well-known character was already contacted.
Wow, and guess what you sound like right now? Me complaining about Enterprise.
But Enterprise is still is head and shoulders. It is so much.
But the Ferengi weren't found until TNG. And
I know.
Suddenly they're in Enterprise, and then they find the Borg. What the hell?
Well, those are the two biggest things. What are they going to do? I mean, they're trying to get people to watch their new show. I loved Enterprise from the first episode. Yeah, it had some rough stuff, but especially like in the third season, man, they really started finding their feet. They told some great stories. Enterprise is worth watching, and it could have been better. It could have been so much better. And now, Star Trek fans hated Enterprise, and now they have the JJ verse.
I don't have anything. I have Mandalorian.
No, honey, you have Anakin.
I have Anakin.
You have Anakin. Let's see. Okay, so I'm so sorry about all of that. Let's go back. I'm gonna stop and start so I have a bookmark. Okay, so the rest of Sivner's Lender. By the way, I love your channel. Thank you. I learned a lot from you. Hopefully it's valid information. Really appreciate it. Let me know if you appreciate it, if my guidance is wrong. Concerning the 7A28 strap question, I would recommend a NATO strap from Phoenix, like Phoenix, Arizona. 18 or 20 millimeters tops. The webbing of the Admiralty Gray is nice and very soft. I wear my 7A38 7070. That's a baby jumbo on a 20 millimeter, and it just fits. But you need to take the spring bars out to install the strap. Yeah, Those, they have really, really shallow clearances because almost every 7A had a dedicated bracelet, and they were very serious about that. You know, I've never been to Phoenix.
I know.
It's just
married
crazy.
you for a long time.
It's crazy. Not only have I never been to Phoenix, it never occurred to me that I would ever go there. I don't know that I ever will.
Hot.
I know it's hot. I mean, what do you do in Phoenix?
Be hot.
There's a great AD watch shop down there, a great authorized dealer. Oh yeah, I'd love to go visit the Arizona Fine Time. I want to go. I've talked with the dude. Dolce J. This is again a comment on the King Seikos. I enjoyed this rebuild a lot. I also enjoy your good humor when things don't magically fall into place. I've run into problems with the quick set, I believe it's called the Star Wheeler gear, and was wondering if you have an older video that features that part of these 5600 series movements. I have a pretty recent video, a big, actually, multi-video restoration series on a Seiko 5619, which is the same family. The big difference is that it has a GMT hand, 24-hour, which is independently settable. So that Star Wheel is doing double duty there, where it's going to click the date and it's going to move the GMT hand. So if there's a bunch of them. Just look at them. I think I call it. Oh, I had some name I had for the watch, and I've since forgotten it. So clearly was not a good name. Joseph Stewart. Spencer! Exclamation point. A fortnight ago, I mentioned that after watching many of your videos on the 6309, I had decided to pull the trigger on one, just as I had done with the 7548 a year earlier. Well, now after watching the whole series you did on the Tan-Dial 7002, I went ahead and got one of those too. An all-original Tan-Dial from 1993. That thing is beautiful. I've taken the case backs off of both models to check out the movements, and they're both beautiful. In your opinion, which is the better movement? As always, lots of love from the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, Australia. Someday I'm far more likely to visit Australia than I am to ever visit Phoenix. Not for any particular reason, it's just I have a real interest in going to Australia. I've always wanted to go. I've always wanted to go to Australia. That'll be a dream come true, actually, going to Australia. And I'm sure there's some Australians going, why would coming here be a dream come true? But you know, people want to come to Colorado like you wouldn't even believe. Like, it's people all over the world want to come here. Do you know the closest place in the world for similarities between Colorado in terms of climate and elevation is Afghanistan? We have slightly fewer. We don't have a theocratic government, thankfully, and we have a lot of legal weed and lots and lots and lots of breweries. But so I guess between the two, Colorado's kind of a winner. But still, I love them. I've come to terms with the fact that I live in the West, and that's kind of my thing. You want me to... Which, in your opinion, is the better movement? A 7548 versus a 7002. Well, they're totally, totally different things. It's a reasonable question because they're both 7000s. They're both 7000, but they're totally different. The 7548s are part of the 754X family, which started with a 7549. And that was a 5-joule high torque movement specifically created for Seiko's second generation of 600-meter professional divers. And they said, well, we don't want to go with automatic manual stuff anymore because we don't want people fiddling with the crown. We want the watch to be automatic and extremely accurate. It's supposed to be a tool watch. They were built to be a tool watch. It's the same movement that's in this. And they were based on the 6000 series SUA architecture. A lot of the calendar materials transfer back and forth. Like, it's all the same stuff. So they're very good for what they are. For a quartz movement, they're amazing. You can dial them in very tightly. They have a variable tremor. They're awesome. The 7002 that's a Dyne design. It's basically a slightly modified 7005, which Seiko came out with in the 60s. And you have the 7005 and 7006 and 7009 and 7019. All of these movements, Seiko made them from the 60s all the way up to the mid 90s when they phased out the 7002. And then they brought in the 7S26, which is another 7000 series. And those got phased out. They came out with the 4R and the 6R, which are just modifications of the 7S, which is a modification of the 7002, which is a modification of the 7005. They are, it's a, you know, it is a watch movement design. It is a foundation that has been used very successfully for decades. 7002s fully serviced are really accurate, extremely robust. They're just great movements. All those 7000 movements are fantastic, but they approach timekeeping in a totally different way for different purposes. 7002s are pretty, I think, inexpensive to make. They didn't require a whole lot of R&D. If they needed to tweak, they tweak, but they just tweaked it. Whereas the 7548 was hang on a second. Honey, mail's coming. FYI, 7548s were custom designed for that model. So they had no real design history behind them that was newly created. They're both fit for purpose. How about that? Phil G. Hey Spencer, awesome video. Well, thank you. What is your opinion on the Dynie 52 movements versus the Sua 56 movements? I'm a Dynie fanboy, so I'm biased, but I wanted to hear your thoughts. Thanks. Well, this is worth a pause to look at the two movements. I don't know what I'm going to say. I have no idea. But let's go find out together. So I'm like a passenger in my own head. I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth. I'm sitting here waiting for the surprise, just like the rest of you. Differences between 6309s and 6319s and 6306s. Basically, they were a movement that was used in a lot of different things. Most notably, the 6309 divers. Basically, I'm trying to look for a good well, we're going to do this. These are 6306s. Out one. Well, we'll look at that one. So there's a 6306. There's a 6306. There's a 6319. There's a 6346 and a 6309. 6309 I have a billion of, but they're mostly like dress watches and stuff. That's another 6306. Anyway, the biggest differences are they look more or less the same. The differences really come down to jeweling and hacking levers. So this is a 6319, 21 jewels. This one has diafix setting. Hang on just one second. Okay, so here's an old junker. This is a 63, well, yeah, it's a 6309. It just has normal jewels in the main plate. Nothing special, no extra diafix. And the center wheel bridge, there is no slot for the hacking lever. Hacking lever is the big thing. But the cool thing about these 6000 series movements, 6306, 6309, 6319, 6349, is that every single one of the main plates is equipped for with a channel for the all-important hacking lever. This is the thing. There is the hacking lever. This hacking lever is unique to the 6306. The slotted center wheel bridges are not unique to the 6306, 6105B, 6106, 6119. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 6106 also has hacking, and you can use those bridges. I don't know, so the biggest differences really are going to be that center wheel bridge and the hacking lever and jeweling. I don't think I've got any extra special jeweled ones here. I keep looking, and I keep not finding them. Ooh, well, here's one. Here's the junker. Okay, so this is a 6000 series movement. We can see it's got 2 diafix settings in the bridge, and it's jeweled here. So the big question next is, does this have a hacking lever? I don't see one. I think this is probably a 6319. But you know what? Let's find out. Let's do our little diagnostic, huh? Let's look and see. I bet you it's a 6319, and it has it does not have a hacking lever. Come on, Spencer. Right there. Let's take this off and we'll find out. Wow, this movement. Look at how bad the lower mainspring arbor port was. Look at that. Totally ground out on one side. Wow. Yikes. Look at the third wheel. It's destroyed. Wow. But you see, no hacking lever. It would be right here, but you'll notice the channel is here. So you can convert this to be a 6306, and it would be a 6306 because that's what a 6306 has. Hacking lever, the channel carved in right there, and diafix here. Now there's 6349 is the last one. This is a 6349. 6349 has everything. It doesn't have a hacking lever, but it has diafix top and bottom. So in the main plates, it would also have a set of diafix just like this on the other side, which you would see right. You would have diafix right there and right there. But that's not what this has. For some reason, though, 6349s, you know, they have the highest possible jewel count, but no hacking. And these went to, weirdly enough, like Southeast Asia, Saudi Arabia, places like that. So that's really the difference. Unrestored, original, 6306. They made these with the Actis and without the Actis. So you can get, it's rare to find the ones that don't say Actis on them. Rarer, I should say. I don't think they were made for long, but then they moved to Actis, and here they are. It's a beautiful watch. A beautiful dial. Look at that crazy blue periwinkle. Isn't that pretty? Okay. Talking about, I put this question in the wrong place. This is a question from Saturnus 3 talking about his 7548 diver. I've had mine already for 41 years. I bought it as a seaman in Yokohama for $220 US. It's indestructible. They are very, very solid. As long as you keep water out of them, they will run forever. Make sure you always use a silver oxide battery, never alkaline, because they'll leak and they'll destroy the movement. $220. What year did you buy it? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's comparable to MSRP right now for one of Seiko's new divers. Isn't it weird that Seiko hasn't come out with a version of the 7548 again? I guess we're just living in a non-quartz time. WZ Chen, great info on the 7002. Any idea where I can get replacement bezel inserts and crystal for an older generation 7002? We sell the crystals for those. 340W H2NO1. Why can't I remember it right now? We sell the crystals, the 32 millimeter flat crystals with the bevel that is polished, not frosted. That's it. Inserts are a real question. Seiko really never sold the inserts separately. If try. I believe their thing typically was to sell complete bezels. I don't know that they ever sold the inserts separately, but even the complete bezels, absolutely decades and decades and decades out of production, impossible to find. If having a good insert is important, the best thing, it's one of those things you just got to look for and get an original insert, because it's, depending on what you've got, if yours is original but worn, that's fine. But if it's got one of those, a bad aftermarket insert, it's tough. The biggest thing with the 7002 inserts that makes them different, there's two things. They tend to be, unlike the 6105 and the 6309 inserts, which have sort of a pebble, sort of eggshell finish to them, like a texture on the surface of that insert, the 7002s tend to be like smooth, almost glossy. And also the loom and the pip itself, the plastic pip is exactly the same, but the loom is green. And so it's sort of greenish. So it looks weird, but that's actually correct. But really, you're going to find a good one in a good watch. I know. Andrew W. Hi, Spencer. I believe, this is again talking about the King Seikos, the chronometers. I believe the number on the movement was actually a chronometer testing number rather than a serial number as such. I've got a 4502 7000, and the seconds hand is slightly jittery on the upstroke between 6 and 12, then smooths out between 12 and 6. I've read this is due to the movement having an indirectly driven seconds hand. Is this correct? Well, let's look at them again. Since I've got them out, let's go look at them. Well, I don't know that I'm going to have an answer to the question, but I can try. We've got these. This is earlier today. And you said 4502, second hand's jittery on the upsweep. Don't mind my fingers. It was just not wearing finger cots. Jittery. Doesn't seem to be any different to me. It looks... Well, I saw a little jump there. Yeah, it's kind of coming and going, I don't know. Usually when I see... The only place I've seen something jittery like that was when you're running the chronograph for an Omega Moonwatch. Because the way that the teeth are cut in between the two wheels that do that. I don't know. I can see that same hand behavior up and down. I don't know why. The only thing with having a indirect center seconds is those are usually, like Rolex does that a lot, is they'll have a friction spring on the back of that pinion to hold it in place, so that because it's supposed to when a hand is moving and stopping and starting as much as this, you have to have something to make it stop. Otherwise, it's just going to keep rolling, and you might get some problems with like things not meshing or something else like this, or just looking sloppy. And I don't. Wait a second. I don't remember. I don't remember anything. It's been too long. 5.2 versus 5.6. 5.2 versus 5.6. Well, you see, I am partial to the 5.6. Simply, I don't know, because they're SUA. Also, we see a lot more 5.6s over here. I really don't see too many 5.2s. 5.1s, sure. 5.126s, billions of them. But the 5.2s, not really. They are magnificent. This unrestored. Oh, this is exactly like the case of the one that was like completely packed with arm hair. So, I suppose I should be wearing finger cots, if only to keep my hands clean. So, why don't I do that? I'll put on some old junky ones. I keep them in case I keep ones that gets. I change a set of finger cuts. I don't ever reuse brand new ones on watch servicing, but for doing stuff like this, like weird work or machining or cleaning something truly dirty, I get out some of the ones I've already used. Waste not, want not. Yikes. This thing is dirty. So the reason I'm opening this is because I don't have an open 5.2 movement. It's kind of amazing, but I don't. I think I'm actually missing a box. I can't find any of my loose 5.2 stuff. Complete watches, yes. The rest of it, no. Oh, man. Someone wore this thing and never cleaned it, and it's stretched out to hell. Okay. Oh, right, that's right. We know this dude's name was Emery. That's right. To Emery. Oh, Christmas Day, 1973. Love Forever, Janice. Pretty cool. Gentleman sent this in so I could maybe do a restoration on this. See, the hands and the dial and everything for this are somewhere. They should be right there. Extremely annoying. Okay, let's get that junky screwdriver back. And let us... No, I want a case knife. Where's my case knife? Friday afternoon. Funk. Where did I put it? It's underneath. Aha. Emery. Well, I'm glad he liked his watch. I hope Janice did keep loving him forever. There isn't enough love in the world, people. Come on now. Get out. Out, out. Damned spot. Let's see. Come on. Out. Oh, this thing is just so glued together. I hate this kind of 70s era pot metal that they use because it just... as soon as the plating gets through, you start getting this green slime everywhere. I hate it. It's so annoying why they would use such a terrible material. Let me get his watches out of here. Those where they are safe. He's probably sitting at his monitor going, get my watches away from that heap of crap. So anyway, that other one, all of these slots were completely packed with sort of auburn arm hair. But not this one. And we can see, look at how dirty this is, right? Look at how dirty that thing is. But yet, look at the lume. It's a little colored down, but not a whole lot. And amazingly, look, the crystal is cracked. And it still was holding together. That's wild. Come on, baby. Wow. Let me try another method here. Oh. Is that so? Natural rubber gasket? For real? What the heck? I wonder... Typically, these natural rubber ones would be generic non-Seiko, because I have brand new ones in from Seiko, and they're all black. Look, she's running. Isn't that pretty, huh? Look at that dial. It has that super classic 70s, like, mix of golds and browns and blacks. Oh, I'm being a silly goose. Yeah, look at that. Look at the crown. Awful material. Looks like I got some loose dial feet here. Hopefully I don't have any broken dial feet. Loose I can accept. Broken I'll be annoyed about. Okay, just loose. That is some happy news. Okay, so now, next step. Let's put this thing in a carrier. Somewhere, someone on this planet is screaming, "Edit this shit out!" Oop, bad language. And I say to this hypothetical person, whatever, man. Isn't that pretty? Man, that's a pretty movement. Okay, so the main difference between Dynie and Sua, Dynie's stuff is their movement tech is tight. It's tight. And so they tend to be a little more tightly built. Ooh, isn't that a pretty watch? But of course, the cool thing about this movement is that it was... Stop. Sorry, Sebastian was whapping at the window. This movement was resurrected as the 4S15. This is a fantastic movement. Look at that in the jeweled harbors, and it's just such a clean design. I mean, obviously this isn't clean because it's rusty, but come on, get out. So this is a deeply rusty movement. Don't worry about this. Okay, just everybody hang on. You can look at the wonder and majesty that is this thing. I don't have a winding weight on this 5600, so just imagine it. That's what I was looking for. There we go. These are just exquisite movements. Dynie's movement tech, honestly, to me, has, in many cases, it's more robust. I think it's sort of more finely developed. They found ways to reduce the height without really reducing quality. I mean, everything on one of these is pretty thin, pretty low. It's a lower stack height than this, certainly. Sua. Sorry about that. I had to clean this. The stuff everywhere was killing me. So I looked inside the case back for this watch with that white rubber seal, and it doesn't have any servicing marks in the case back. Maybe he just got a crystal change at some point. But anyway, 5-6, yeah. My issue, I think, is actually consistent for how I feel about sort of Dynie versus Sua. I think Sua made the most visually appealing watches, for me personally. I just think, you know, Sua's design work is just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I like the 7000 series, you know, Dynie chronographs. They're okay. They're a little wacky for me. And same thing here. Well, I like the Dynie stuff can be really, it can be so, it's just that just extra bit crazy. God, the execution is beautiful. But in terms of the movements, I mean, it has a lower stack height. It's more heavily jeweled. It's, I don't know. I honestly, I would have to go with the 5.2. I do like the 5.6s, but also the quick set issue, that's a major problem. So even as a Sua fanboy, I have to say, in terms of movements, Dynie knew what they were doing and they did it right. And look at this thing. Dynie? Yes, Dynie, sorry. Sabrina walked in just in time to correct me. I love this watch. Isn't that beautiful? I have the original bracelet for it right here. but I'm missing one of the two end links. It's got these little sort of peak in the middle. They're just beautiful. But I think that the sort of the Sua version of it is actually a little bit more accessible in terms of size. That's another thing, is I see that Daini's watches tend to be really small, and this one's a little bigger. Again, there's that plated base case. This would be a beautiful watch if it wasn't for that. Makes me crazy. All right. Let's put those away. Speaking of periwinkle, look at that, huh? That's all original. All right. No more fooling around. And the last question. Patrick O. Hi, Spencer. Thank you again for another informative video. You're welcome. I have a question for this week. Have you ever serviced a Seiko Marine Master 300? Yes, mine. Did you make a video? No, it was my watch. If not, do you still have yours? Technically, it is physically still here, but it no longer owns to me. No longer belongs to me. I sold it, but the owner is he's working with some personal things that he has to do, legal stuff, in a completely different country, and I'm just holding everything for him until he's back. I almost never see him in. I certainly can service them. They're, crazily enough, they are a 7000 series movement, more or less. They've got some things that are different, obviously, but in its bones, it's yet again another 7000 series. Servicing it was not tough. The hardest thing was figuring out with the Marine Master that their crystal setup is really unusual. The old tunas and everything, you put in your big crystal and you have a screw down ring that screws the crystal in place. Marine Master has that, but instead of that crystal retaining thing screwing down into the case, it screws down into basically a crystal cartridge, and the cartridge, that complete cartridge, goes into the case and has its own screw down ring. So once you figure that out, you're taking off the outer ring, not the inner ring. You just open it up and service it. Yeah, and it's serviced easily and it ran beautifully. It still runs beautifully. And that's about it. I don't think there's anything else going on. It's Friday. I have to go get Sebastian from school soon. But then this weekend, I'm working on the garage, doing lots of work on that garage, because I got to get that ready before winter comes and so I can work on the MG. I am considering actually building part of the garage to being an actual dedicated watch office just for me, because I think that's kind of the direction that I'm going to need to head. The garage belongs to the MG. I don't need space for two cars. I got one in there. I'm cleaning the whole place up. It's going to look nice when I'm done. I could frame in. I've insulated all the walls. I'm going to insulate the ceiling so we'll be able to heat that room. So that might be it. My watch bench might be in the garage with my MG and all my other neat stuff. So that'd be kind of cool. I could start making new videos where it's like, what are we going to do today? Are we going to work on a watch? Are we going to work on a guitar? Are we going to work on the MG? I'm thinking about it. The idea only came to me a couple days ago, but I'm thinking on it. I think it'd be fun. Anyway, that's it, folks. You have a good weekend. I will... Oh, where is it? I've been doing a lot of research on my fossils, too. You remember, everything underneath all the solder on this house there's tons of shale, fossiliferous shale, and I've managed to identify a number of the creatures that were in it. A lot of them are a few different species of ammonites, which are long extinct. Also, this is the diagnostic. Diagnostic fossil is one that's like you can say, okay, well, I found this, therefore I know the range of time for these fossils are going to be this. This is Innoceramus, early Jurassic into Cretaceous. They were kind of like a clam. They were related to, they're brachiopods. They were brachiopodds, but they could be huge, 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 like 3, 4, 5 feet across, easily. And but they started out little. I don't know if you can see this. See those ridges there? I guess I can take this thing out of the bag. Anyway, that right there, that is part of one of those. And these, you can tell these are them because these things had an unusual shell structures, that the shells were made of calcite needles, basically. It looks like, you can't see it here. I'd have to really show it to you. Well, you can kind of see it there. Let's see if I can get it to focus on my hands. See that sort of white silver stuff? It's like all these pin-like little calcite rods. And this was the species that did it, and they only existed for a few million years. That's my understanding. But I have little ones, and I have huge ones. I have a piece of one. The damn thing must have been as big as a manhole, or bigger. And so, but that places us. There's a lot of stuff in there, in these fossils, and I'm starting to research and figure out what some of this stuff is. There's some wacky stuff going on out there. Anyway, that's it. Long video. Long video. I tell you, like, what is that? I see the same patterns in these stones over and over again. I can't identify them, but I see them repeatedly. This was a shallowish marine environment filled with squishy things and giant clams. And you can see, actually, well, I'm not going to go into it. If I'm going to make a fossil video, I'll make one. I can babble about this forever. Folks, thank you so much for watching this. And again, for putting up with my complete lack of scripting. And that's it. Have a great weekend. We'll do it again.